Good morning and welcome to How to Network Online and Offline. I'm Dante. I'll be taking you through this particular module as we look at what the keys are to successfully being a networker, both online and offline. First of all, this is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program. You can get that via businessstation.com.au in conjunction with Regional Development Australia, Brisbane in Queensland, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. You'll be able to see this later on YouTube through the Business Station channel on YouTube and also my own. Just search for Business Station on YouTube or Dante St James. They'll both be available there for you. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to whatever channel you're watching this on and make sure you get those updates as they're coming through, because we'd love to be able to bring you more of these great learning opportunities as often as we possibly can. A quote from Ivan Misner, the founder of BNI, Business Networking International, is that networking is much more about farming than it is about hunting. I want you to take that particular quote into the back of your mind and take that a little bit further into this particular presentation as we show you how to farm rather than hunt when it comes to business networking. What we're going to look at is online networking and then give you a simple plan for increasing your online network. You can look at offline networking as well. And then finally, we'll give you a simple strategy for making that offline networking in the real world a whole lot less awkward. Let's fire away. My name's Dante St James. I'm a member of a lot of different networks, namely Territory Proud, the Australian Industry and Defence Network, Skoll International, Australian Computer Society, Darwin Small Business Network. I was a BNI and BEN member, but also now a member of Chamber of Commerce Northern Territory, the Australian Marketing Institute, the Australian Institute of Office Professionals, and Tourism Top End. I have a lot of memberships and I go to a lot of networking functions, and I want to show you why in just a minute. So why do I network? Quite simply, that networking is fantastic business. Over the last 2 years, this has been the results that I've seen out of the networking that I've been able to do. So for example, we're looking at something like BNI. I invested $2,800 in this in 2017, and that gave me a revenue gain of $17,700 that I could definitely put right back to my membership and participation in a particular BNI networking chapter. BEN was $1,500 to get in and go to the breakfast, gaining $7,500. These are no-brainers. I can see that these were excellent returns. Territory Proud, $250 membership, over $7,500 of revenue. Skoll International, over the last 3 years, I've spent $2,320 on dinners, on sponsorships, on all sorts of stuff, but I've gained over $30,000 from this. It's showing you that the whole return on investment when it comes to networking, if you put some effort into it and you actually really believe in it, is just phenomenal. For instance, just joining a small network like the Australian Domain Administration Group as an associate member cost me nothing, but that association made me $1,300 in referrals because somebody trusted that they could deal with me because of that particular membership. Things like the Australian Computer Society and Australian Marketing Institute can be very much connectors for you because they add a little bit of extra credibility to you so that people can tell that you're doing the right thing and you're governed by some sort of code of ethics. So that's the offline networking. What we're going to look at first, though, is the process of online networking, how to network using social media and other online platforms. So we're talking about really LinkedIn and Facebook. They're primary places where you're going to go to do your networking when it comes to the online kind of networking. So this is not real person, in person, going to meetings, doing all that sort of thing. It's all about being sure that you can, both be present online in a network and participate online in that network as well. And there's some really, really great ways to do this. We'll look at LinkedIn first. LinkedIn is probably the first one that comes to mind when you think of business networking. Why is that? Because it's where professionals go. It's where professionals gather. It's the network that we go to because it's the network where we do business. So if you're looking to look at how to network, it's probably 3 areas that you'd network the most when it comes to LinkedIn. That's in the feed, in groups on LinkedIn, and by posting things yourself, actually participating, not just reading and lurking in that network, doing something in it to take an active part in it. So when we look at the feed, we're looking at You will interact via comments. So this is simply, you're going to read the material that other people are posting, and then you interact with that material that's being posted by the people you're following, and make comments, add to the conversation, start a conversation in their comment section that is respectful, that adds value to what they've already put in there. You're not trying to bookend them, you're not trying to be controversial with them. All you're trying to do is let them know that, number one, you're there, number two, you're interested, number three, you're someone who's worth having a conversation with. You show a little bit of expertise in these kind of places, and you're able to leverage that into a lot of credibility. People will believe a lot more of what you have to say, simply because you're doing something which is so open and so honest and so real. You don't have to be formulaic. You don't have to, have a particular program you follow or a particular schedule that you follow on this. Just be real, be a real person interacting with other real people on LinkedIn. Now, sharing of other people's content is one of those things where you do, I guess, when it matches your objectives. So what are you on LinkedIn to do? Are you on there to grow your business, to let people know that your business exists? Are you there to connect with other people, to build your network? Then posting content from other people or sharing content that other people have posted is a really good way of you interacting with that person whose stuff you've shared, but also opening a conversation up to a wider audience of people who may be interested in what you've just shared. This is not making your own post. That will come a little bit later on. We'll do a bit of that, but it's more about taking something you've seen that really hits home and is relevant to what you're doing. Now, this also ties into making sure that you're dealing with things that are relevant. You're not just going to connect with people who are, for instance, stonemasons when you have nothing to do with the construction industry, or connecting and interacting with people who are air traffic controllers when you have nothing to do with aviation. So it's about being very relevant and very discerning about the kind of connections you make and the investments you make in terms of time for the particular groups and networks and platforms you're going to work on. I would say then posting content of your own is a topic we'll talk about in a second, because it's a very specific thing, but also be discussing topics of interest. And this is where the groups come in. So if we look at what it looks like when you're participating on the feed. So I've got here Jack, who's someone who I work with. He has shared he's shared some material from Megan McGregor. It was all about the Australian Industry and Defence Network NT Young Defence Professionals event of 2020. And he's one of those in there. And what you're seeing is, yes, number one, him sharing that particular piece of information that someone else has posted. But the second part of it is that this guy Cruz down the bottom has actually commented, "Way to go, Jack Cameron," as he's developing a relationship, a business relationship with Jack. So participating in what he's been sharing is a great way of doing that. Secondly, that guy Cruz posts a lot of stuff as well, and he's a master networker. He's at the launch of a competitor of mine, actually, who I'm going to be doing a lot of collaborating with, and North HQ with Danielle Kelly, saying it was great to catch up with local legends. He actually tagged a few of us in there who he considers to be local legends. Very flattering and very nice. And then seeing a comment below from AJ Calatunga in Melbourne saying, "Hey, it's great to see you heavyweights together and collaborating." Cheering on others grows rapport. Now, AJ and I have never met, but we've got a great online relationship through LinkedIn. Cruz and I have met a number of occasions because we're in the same town. And so we've got that natural rapport that's already there, and we collaborate on a lot of things. But we, of course, met through online platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn. So that's grown into now a strong, solid working relationship where we collaborate on projects, make money together, give each other ideas. There's a lot of stuff that we're able to do together. And I really love the fact that we're able to do that, because it hasn't cost us a cent to be able to do it. None of this costs you anything. It's completely free to network this way. When it comes to groups on LinkedIn, you've got the opportunity to read the things that other people are posting. So you've got that option of looking at an interest group and then digging down more deeply into what the things are that are being discussed in that particular category or interest group. This then allows you in that group to reply in the same way as you would with a feed, but on very specific topics. And I've got a couple of very specific topics I'll come up on next in our screenshots. It allows you to follow those who are of interest. So if you see people who are having a great conversation and contributing to the conversation in an area of interest that you particularly have, then you've got this opportunity to then follow those as individual people. Following is is something that I'll say a little bit later on, is less about connecting with them and necessarily being friends with them, but it's about following them so you can see the material that they're posting and keep abreast of the things that they're doing. So examples of this would be the radio, television, broadcast, and voiceover professionals group. So you, as a member of this, I can start a conversation because I do voiceovers for radio and TV as well. You've got something there from Dick Taylor, who is an on-air personality, a blogger, consultant, educator. He's talking about ice and radio. So he's doing something quite interesting about that particular industry. And then down below, got Rudy, who's saying radio is and always will be about securing and holding on to the best talent. So they're sharing a lot of other people's stuff, or in Dick's case, he's sharing his own blog post to spur conversation in this group. And this particular ones, they didn't spur much conversation. And that's the case in most groups on LinkedIn. They're not massively successful at spurring conversations on. That said, you can be a conversation starter and you can be a conversation spiker. So for instance, a conversation starter will be literally starting a conversation in this group, as you see on the left. If you're wanting to spike a conversation on someone else's stuff, you can begin the conversation by referring to the person who posted it and say, hey, great share. I never really thought of radio as being similar to ice. Really interesting. I wonder if anyone from the Australian radio market can add a little bit of perspective on whether this is also similar in our market as well. Over on the right, you see Mirko, who's posted they're currently running a survey about technical debt management. That is a seriously niche topic in agile project management. So if you don't even know what agile project management is, this group's probably not for you. This group can actually get a little bit quite vocal. So this particular one didn't have anyone replying to it. Then someone putting like a conversation starter, such as Patricia down below, who hasn't shared her photo, which is really strange, but wanting to be someone who sparks conversations but doesn't want to share what they look like. Agile tool and remote working environments are all about asynchronous communication. Do you agree? That's the kind of conversation that's very, very specific to that specific kind of person and that specific kind of industry segment. So yes, you may not be able to go in there and answer questions, but you find something that's appropriate to your particular type of business and your particular industry, and you'll be able to, work a little bit more closely with those people. And as you can see there, you can click on any of their names, Mirko, Patricia, Rudy, or Dick, and go through to their profile, either connect with them or what I call following. And following is a little bit less full on than just connecting. Connecting is kind of like, here's my business card. Can we be best buddies, best friends forever? Please, 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 please. Whereas followers is like, I've just got your business card. You know what I might do? I might just go and follow you on LinkedIn and just see what you're up to. I'm really interested. It's a little bit less creepy than demanding a connection straight away. And what we find is if people go to try and connect with us just willy-nilly all over LinkedIn, we're assuming that they're going to follow that up within a 24-hour period with a sales pitch. And just about every time that happens to me, it's someone I don't know who's not connected closely to people who I know and trust. Then they're just somebody who's trying to sell something, and their first message to me is always, hey, are you in the business of agile project management? Would you like better agile project tools? I sell these tools. And it's not a fun experience at all. So don't be that guy. Also on LinkedIn is posting yourself. So posting your own material. Now, I would say that LinkedIn is very similar to Facebook in that you do not need to post every single day, multiple times a day, unless you're Gary Vaynerchuk. He can do it because he's already got a built-in audience and a team of 60 people who work with him. With LinkedIn though, posting between 2 to 3 times a week allows you to share a little bit of different stuff. So you can tell a story. Now, this is the way I do it pretty much. I tell a story about a client situation, a networking situation, a business situation, a digital trick, some sort of story that says, this is how it made me feel. This is how I overcame it. This was the result. It's quite formulaic, but it seems to get some really good results from people. I can have thousands of people viewing those without having to pay a cent to get it. That's the beautiful thing about LinkedIn right now, is that organic reach through posting your stuff is better than Facebook. In fact, it's better than just about any program apart from, say, TikTok. And you don't have to post something funny or entertaining on LinkedIn to get that kind of share and that kind of virality. You can share other people's material in one of those posts as well. So what I generally do, I tell a story on, say, a Monday or a Wednesday. On the next 2 days, I'll turn into sharing someone else's material that I happen to agree with or have an interest in, an area that I happen to maybe have some kind of affinity with. And then in the third one, I'll generally share something that's a little bit more closely related to something that I'm trying to promote, or a workshop that I'm hosting, or a one-to-one, thing that I'm doing something with, that I'm trying to get some kind of momentum or bookings for. But I do it in the most respectful way, rather than going in a hard sell saying you should book me. It's more about, here's a success story, and here's how we did it. If you'd like to know more, reach out. And people do reach out. LinkedIn has probably been the most successful of the networks I've been on in the last 5 years, ever since having a viral article about probably 2014. I think I had 2 or 3 viral articles that had over 50,000 views each. I was very convinced about the ability of LinkedIn to be a much bigger prospect for gaining business to business contacts than something like Facebook. An example of some of the things I've shared would be where I shared the ASBAS Digital Solutions Queensland post about a particular workshop that I was running about building diversity and inclusion into the business. And then I just added that. I hope you'll join me for this wonderful opportunity to see how you can quickly and effectively add diversity and inclusion into your small business. So that was a really good opportunity for me to not just share something else that someone else had posted, but double it up as being, this is something that actually benefits me as well, because I'm the person who's actually hosting this. And then secondly, I've got one where it actually was a story that I told at an International Men's Day forum here in Darwin, where I was able to share a story that was quite painful at the time, but then also was able to share the overcoming of that and what the overall feel of that is, and the message I wanted to change. That actually led to a lead, and you can see it in the screenshot here. It's a real live lead being created because of that on LinkedIn. It absolutely does happen. 73 likes, 23 comments. And then Arthur came in and asked if I'm able to undertake a particular job for him. I met Arthur for lunch yesterday, and he's now coming on as what I call a lifetime client. Rather than taking a big bunch of money from him up front to do a project, we're going to be working together over a longer period of time. So I call that, a lifetime client, someone who I can add a lot more lifetime value to. And they also bring a lot more lifetime value into my wallet as well, because that money is spread out over years rather than just one clunky project straight away. So I'm really happy with that. That shows that LinkedIn networking actually works for gaining work. So how do you build your network on LinkedIn? Well, it's a matter of, what I do is a 9-to-1 ratio. Now, that's not my idea. I stole this one from Jo Saunders, who is an amazing LinkedIn expert based in Perth and is an ASBAS Digital Solutions advisor and presenter as well. She does what we call the 9-to-1 ratio. She gives 9 comments. She adds 9 pieces of feedback, or adds 9 pieces of value to other people in LinkedIn before she posts anything herself. So what that says is, if I want to post 3 things in a week, I've got to then give 27 pieces of feedback or adding value to other people's posts elsewhere. So you're giving, at least 9 comments on other people's stuff, or 9 shares of other people. Usually comments, becoming part of the conversation, is really helpful for people. And the algorithm on LinkedIn really rewards those posts that have a lot of conversation on them. I've got things I've posted weeks and weeks ago that are still pinging for new likes and new comments even today. So it actually works. It really does ping that algorithm. The 9-to-1 ratio is definitely something that might seem a bit over the top, but when you think about it, it doesn't take that much to say, hey, great post. I really like the bit that you said about X. That is a great piece of feedback for someone. You do that 9 times and then you post something. With your particular post that you're going to do, number 1, tell a story. Number 2, share a link. And then number 3, finally, introduce a product or service. I try to stretch that out a little bit more. I'll go tell a story, share a link, tell a story, introduce a product or service. It's what I call the jab, 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 right hook. That's wrong. Jab, 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 right hook. I'm not a boxer, and I couldn't even get my left and right correct there. What it is basically is that you offer something of value, offer something of value, offer something of value, and then ask to get some value back. In the most simple thing, it'd be comment on someone's post in a meaningful way that shows you read it. Then do that again. to someone else, then do that again to someone else, and then perhaps do something that's a little bit more promotional. In my case, it's more like jab, 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 right hook. Then there's the whole search and follow method. This is what I was talking about before. Rather than looking for that person and then connecting with them, may seem like a very nice word, connecting, but it can get rather creepy. Now, you've got to remember that not everybody on LinkedIn is a man. Shock, horror, gasp. Sometimes they're women. And if a man very, like from somewhere that's not related to where this woman is, or is in even a similar market segment or anything like, suddenly appears as a connection on LinkedIn, it can feel a little creepy. Now, I'm a guy. And when I have that happen from people, somebody who's working in Bengaluru, or someone who's working in Romania, or someone working in the United States that I have absolutely no connection with whatsoever, suddenly hits me up to be a connection on LinkedIn, it can feel a little bit creepy and a bit weird. So what I say is that if you see someone you want to connect with, what you do is go and follow them first. And I call this soft outreach. By following them, it shows that you did show up and see their profile. And then you will now see their material if they're posting any in your feed. Now it's your idea to farm. So you do this farming, not hunting. You're not hunting for leads. What you're doing, you're farming for leads. The leads are something which you need to then go and search for the people of interest that you know that you could have a good connection with and work together with. Then follow them. So it's not the connect button. It's on the right. There's a few dots on a button. Click that and then go. There's a follow option. The follow option, then you'll see their material. And the farming is that they become part of your 9-to-1 ratio. They become part of your jab, jab, jab mentality, where you're adding some value to their conversations, becoming part of their conversations on their posts, well before you ask for any kind of connection. What I generally find is it takes between 5 and 6 weeks of doing that and of appearing in their comments and doing that for them to reach out at some point and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're not connected. Do you mind if I connect with you? And there's no more powerful connection than the one that's been initiated from someone else who thought they were already connected with you. And I've had that with several people. In fact, that guy, AJ Kalatanga, that was showing up in my comments before, he was a case in point. I followed him, didn't connect with him, and then I started interacting with his posts. What that led to was then he reaching out to me and saying, dude, why are we not connected? I thought we were. And then it all came from there. We became connected and became very much, I wouldn't say business partners, but what we've done is connected in such a way that we've got so many common interests and common friends that we can cross-refer people one to another in all sorts of cases. And we have done that. I've connected him with people in Melbourne. He's connected me with people in the Northern Territory. And it's been a very fruitful relationship to have. So now we look at Facebook as a second online platform where you could use for making some sort of business networking. The obvious place to do that is through business pages. A second obvious place is probably through groups, and then personal profiles being the third, but much sort of, it can feel a little bit creepy when you go into personal profiles and start networking with them. So I'll start off with now networking through business pages, active business pages of other people. So in here, you can follow pages as your page. Now you don't have to like a business page of someone else as an individual person. You can actually do that as your page. Now, if you need more instructions on that, just Google follow business page as my page, and it'll be able to tell you the instructions on how to do that. I won't go exactly into that right now. What that does, it creates then a page newsfeed for your particular page. What it does, it creates the ability for you to say, okay, here is the things that my business page follows and the updates from those places that my business page follows. That gives you a second feed, not just your own personal private Facebook feed. You've now got a feed that's all about the things that your business page follows. The big difference is here is that rather than getting cats falling off skateboards and pictures of your friends' new babies, you get photos of posts from businesses that you have an affinity with, that you follow, that you're actively being a part of. So the more that you interact with those businesses, the more they interact with you, the more that you're going to appear in their page newsfeed, and they're going to appear in your page newsfeed. The importance of that is that you get to see what's going on in their business. You get to follow that all through. Then the other way you can do is commenting on posts, just like you do with LinkedIn. The more you comment on business pages posts, the more that they're going to notice you. And you can do that, of course, because we've already done it, as your business. You don't have to do it as a person every time. It can be really helpful though if you do it as both, you as a person and you as a business, particularly if you've got more than one business entity that you're sharing with. And also share what's appropriate with them. So you're not going to get on there and look for things that are completely out there. The cats falling off skateboard, the fail videos, the uni lad shares and all that. Make sure that what you're sharing on your business page is appropriate for other businesses to follow and comment on as well. So it becomes a, I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of situation. On groups on Facebook, I would encourage you to join business and community groups, local community groups, buy, sell, and swap groups, not for buy, sell, and swap groups to necessarily sell your business stuff on there, because everyone in a buy, sell, and swap group is generally after everything for free or 20 bucks. There's no value in there for you to sell a higher end product or coaching services or anything that involves selling your time for money. What you want to do is be helpful. You comment and you help people out with their questions wherever you can. What you want to do is get known for what you're an expert in. If you're an expert at handyman services, add in some tips and tricks to people who are asking about handyman services. The key here for you as a business is not to necessarily start conversations, because we're really bad at doing that without making it about us. What we've got to do is participate in conversations that are already happening by other people who are talking about things that are in part of our business world. If people are talking about home renovation and you're a carpenter, that's an ideal opportunity for you to then enter that conversation as an expert in that area without you necessarily having to come across as being salesy. Remember, jab, 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 right hook. We're not completely going out there and asking for people to buy our services. We're going out there to be known as the expert in the room. So then watch your page and your personal inbox. So what's going to happen is if you're interacting as your page, your business page on a group, then you're going to see different followers come through from those groups to your business page and then possibly inbox you through your business page. But what you'll do if you participate as an individual on groups, and a lot of groups, they don't allow you to participate as a page. They only allow you to participate as an individual. Watch your personal inbox as well to see what things are coming in terms of responses to the expertise you're showing. Give it 3 months. I can tell you now that you will have at least one lead start to come through. It's a long lead time, I know, but remember, this is free stuff. You're not paying to get further ahead. You're doing it for free. This then is probably a little more controversial because it's sort of blurring the line between you as a business and you as an individual person. My advice here is that even if it's personal, it's professional. Behaving like a professional human being through your personal profile, no matter whether you're talking to your friends, whether you're talking to your mum, whether you're talking to the guys you met down at the pub on Friday night. When it's personal, it's also professional because you are a business owner. And I would say then make it be known via your profile, your personal profile, that you do have a business and this is what it's called. Showing that as your works at is a powerful way to show people that you're not just another employee, you're actually a business owner. So they can expect that occasionally you're going to share posts. They're going to be something to do with your workplace or business. They're going to be something that's to do with, hey, I'm having a sale this weekend to sell off some old stock. Just feel like coming down. And if you're one of my friends, I might have a few little surprises for you, and some muffins and some coffee. It doesn't have to be super salesy. Don't be like those network marketers who are constantly reaching out and going, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, claiming that they are working under attraction marketing when all they're really doing is just spamming everybody in their personal feed with stuff that they're not interested in. Spam is a very short-term solution that comes with long-term losses, and you're looking for long-term solutions. So if you go out there, just spam everyone with your workshops, spam everyone with your coaching, spam everyone with your network marketing business and your little funny health eggs that you're trying to claim they're going to cure your cancer and make your migraines go away. all you're doing is limiting your audience more and more and more. So many more of the people who are connected to you as friends are no longer going to be following you personally, simply because they're sick of seeing your rubbish that keeps coming up there. They're not interested in it. They're interested in you as a person. And over a period of time, they'll become less interested in you as a person, and you will lose them as a follower. They'll just mute you from the feed. So when it comes to the world of offline networking, it's a little bit different, because you're dealing with real people in a real environment, face to face, shaking hands, sharing space. Now, offline networking took a bit of a pounding this year, obviously during COVID-19. But in most parts of Australia, these networks are starting to form again, and we're starting to see people come back into rooms where they can shake hands and get to know people as well. I really enjoy the process of offline networking, but I didn't used to. I used to be very shy about it until I was taught a method through a BNI chapter on the Gold Coast back in 2016-17 of how to participate more thoroughly in this kind of thing and how to be quite successful at it. When it puts a particular following or a particular method in front of you to do these, it makes offline real world networking so much easier to approach, because remember, everybody else is as terrified as you, and everyone else thinks that what they've got to say is not as important as what you've got to say. So take advantage of that and say what you've got to say anyway. But please do go in with a plan. You want to make sure that you know exactly who you and your business are. You know exactly what it is that you and your business offer. And then back that up with knowing how to listen for who the other person is, knowing what they offer, because it's heavily important for you in a business networking group to understand the concept of referral. Now, referral is not like handing someone a business card and saying, oh yeah, give Charlie a call, he's a great photographer. It's more about, creating that connection, which goes, you know what, do you mind if I give your card to Charlie? He's a really good photographer and he'll reach out and have a chat to you. He got some stuff done for me a little while ago, took the only photos of me in action I've ever not hated. I wanted to burn. And so I really value him as someone who's able to make me feel good about what I look like. Then I'm sure he'll make you feel fantastic about how you look like. That's a referral. A referral isn't just a solid, here, pass a business card along. It's more about personally connecting two people. I did this exact thing yesterday where I connected a real estate agent and a mortgage broker together over lunch. So I wasn't at the lunch with both of them, but I'd previously seen one for morning tea, one for lunch. And I went, wait a second, you guys work in really complementary fields. Are you working with mortgage brokers? No. Are you working with real estate agents? No. Do you mind if I introduce you? Great. Introduce them. And now they've got the value to be able to connect with each other and work together on a very strong business basis and start something potentially newer and greater for both of them. Do I get any benefit out of that? No, of course not. But I am already working with those two as clients. So I've already got the benefit. This is how I can offer something more back to them. That's because I know who each of them were. I know what each of them offered. And I knew how to listen for what they were both after. And I found a common thread there that connects both of them together. That makes you a networker. So knowing who you are comes down to a very simple formula, which is called the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is for you to be able to express who you are, what your business is, what it does, knowing what the problem is that you solve for clients and who those ideal clients happen to be. So your example may be, my name is Carmine Rossio. My business is Rossio Group Mortgage Broking Solutions. You know how it can be really hard to work out whether you're getting the best deal to get a home loan, particularly if you had a bit of a dodgy financial past. Well, I solve this by doing all that legwork for you. I've got the deals with all the different lenders, and I can come back to you with the one that fits just right for you. And my ideal customer is someone who doesn't have the time to be seeing all the banks themselves, or perhaps knows they might have a little bit of trouble getting a loan, that I can help get them through that process and get them in their new home sooner. Now, I'm not a mortgage broker. I'm not Carmine, but I know Carmine well enough to know that that's his elevator pitch because I taught it to him. So knowing who you are means you've always got that common thread every time you meet someone. So if someone comes up and says to you, hey, my name's Daryl, what's your business? You go, oh, I'm Dante. I work for a business called Treaty Business Consulting. And Probably the best way of me explaining what we do is, well, you know how businesses, they grow really fast, they get to a point where they get stuck and they get a little bit, stagnant, and they can't quite get to that next level. Well, we solve that by putting processes in place that are proven by the test of time to get people past that stuck point and into a growth phase again. And our ideal customer would be a business that is established and are ready to get that kind of growth. So I know that because I've been taught that particular pitch from Treaty Business Consulting. So knowing who you are and knowing who you represent, even if you're employed by someone, is a really amazing way for you to be able to go in with a plan to share what you are, what you solve, and who it is you're looking for. Because immediately when someone is told, this is who I'm looking for, they get a picture in their head of exactly that kind of person. They might be that business, but it's far more likely, and this is the power of networks, right? It's far more likely that someone they know is going to be the business that could suit that particular problem being solved. So don't forget, the people in the room are less likely to be your clients than the people that they know that are outside of the room. So think of networking as a core circle of you and the people in the network. Now, you may be able to do a little bit of business with the people in the room, but the network is all about that next ring out, which is the people that the people in the room know and work with. But there's also a third ring, which is even more powerful. And this is the true virality of networking, is that you have that core of you and the people in the room, the people that you and the people in the room know, and then there's the people that the people outside of the room know. And that goes into then a much bigger audience. It's not just a couple of dozen people in a room. It's now thousands of different people who have now got the power to be referred your particular business to your particular thing that you do to solve the problem that your business solves. It's a fantastic way of achieving that power of online networking, but in an offline way. If you're a great networker in a room of a few dozen people, well, then you're going to be a sensational networker in the real world when it comes to being referred and referring others to people who are in that room. Now, it's also great to know what it is that you offer. What is the thing that you do? So you need to do a bit of work on what is called a one-liner. And this one-liner is going to very simply explain everything you do in terms of your products and your services in one short sentence. What my short sentence is for my previous digital marketing agency is that it exists to help small business to get known, get found, and stay known. Very, very simple, very easy to imagine that getting known, well, getting a reputation, yes. Getting found, oh, that must mean Google. And staying known, which means, being able to sell to someone a second time. That's what we specialized in. That was all of our one-liner was. What's your one-liner? What it is you do? You can think about that and get it down to one sentence. Oh, but we do so many things. So do my digital marketing agency. Oh, but we have like 13,000 different lines of products that are not necessarily related. So does Coles and Woolworths. But I tell you what, Woolworths is still the fresh food people. So it can be as easy as a slogan or as complex as a 2-line one-liner. So just work on what it is that is a core thing about what you offer. If you're a butcher, you sell meat. If you're a greengrocer, you sell fruit and vegetables. Get down to that kind of simplicity. If you're selling aromatherapy products that are promised to have therapeutic benefits for women of all ages, then get that down to something like, we sell scented candles and other scented products that have been proven to have therapeutic benefits to women. Great, that's your one-liner. You don't have to go into, and we sell this brand and this brand and this brand and this thing and this thing and this thing and have this service and workshops and all these. Get it down to one line, because someone's going to lose interest after that one line and not really listen to much else you've got to say about yourself, because really they're just waiting for you to shut up so they can tell you about what they're doing. And of course, know how to listen, which is exactly what that last point was. Remember the names and the faces of the people you meet. I've got a technique that I use, which is to repeat their name back to them 3 times. It doesn't sound weird when you do it naturally. I meet someone and their name is Natalie, and I go, oh, hi, Natalie, how are you? Right. So tell me, Natalie, what is it you're actually doing, in this network? And that's great. And then before they go, oh, thanks, Natalie, it was really nice to meet you. I've repeated that name back to her, associated that face and that conversation with a name 3 times. That locks it in. For me, at least, it helps lock it in. So I'm getting very good at this. simply by remembering that, well, I don't even have to remember anymore. It just comes as part of natural conversation. I got to repeat their name back to them as soon as they introduce themselves. Then I add their name in a couple of pieces of conversation later, and before they leave the conversation, repeat their name back to them again. They'll also make them more likely to remember your name, because naturally we want to be connected with people who take the time to get to know us rather than people who seem to just not care and just want to move on. I also like to connect with people on LinkedIn as soon as possible, or at least follow them. So I'll actually have my phone in there. Once I've had that conversation, I'll just say, look, just one sec. I've just got to look for something, and I'll just pop into LinkedIn and I'll look for the name of that person. And I'll go and follow them, just so I've got their stuff coming through that I can see. So it keeps them fresh in my mind almost immediately if there's someone who posts something. Another thing I'll do as well is to write notes on the back of the business cards that we exchange, even if it's like not particularly that legible. I just want to write there, if it's a business card for a company, I write the name of the person on there. If I write that on, met at the business enterprise network or something like that. So I'm able to get some kind of mental note when I see the card later on and do a follow-up on what it is that they actually do and where I met them. Now, this has been really, really useful for me because I usually get back to my office with my pile of business cards and I send off an individual greeting to say, hey, it was lovely to meet you at, would you happen to be free for coffee next Thursday morning at 10? Because I'd love to know a bit more about what you do. In any networking scenario, and I learned this from my BNI chapter, that the one-on-one networking factor is far more powerful than just the in-room group of 40 people. The in-room group of 40 people, you can get to know very, very little, the elevator pitch about each person, but you're not necessarily delving into that one-to-one relationship where someone builds trust. They trust you enough to share the information of your business with their friends and family, and you trust them enough to be able to refer them on to other people as well. So that one-to-one is a follow-up that I like to do. Is it awkward? Is it weird? Not really. Remember, you're just meeting another human being and they're there for the same reason as you. They want to grow their business. You want to grow your business. Together, you can grow each other's businesses together. And it's so much easier to do that when you're meeting people. Now, of course, you can waste your entire week meeting people from a networking group. Let it just happen over a few weeks or months. Just make it natural, or pick out the people that you feel like you could have the best connection with, or someone who's in a parallel industry or work situation than what you are. That follow-up is vitally important. The golden rule, back to that jab, 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 right hook, is how can I help, not how can they help me. It's not how can I connect them, it's not how they can connect me. So I'll say that again. It's all about how can I help them, not how can they help me. And it's how can I connect them, not how can they connect me. When you connect others, they will connect you. When you help others, they will want to help you too. It's not just a rule of karma or anything, reaping and sowing or any of those metaphysical things. It's just a fact of life. If you reach out to help people, they're much more likely to want to help you. You leave people with a great taste in their mouth, they're much more likely to want to not just work with you, but refer you onto other people as well. The jab, 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 right hook thing comes from Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's all about a book he wrote quite a few years ago, which is all about really give and give and give and keep giving, and then eventually you can ask for something in return. So let's turn our attention now to specific networking groups that you may want to join. I'm just about to sneeze, sorry, so I apologize in advance if that happens in the middle of this presentation. See if I can make it go away. There we go. So the networking groups you can consider don't always seem appropriate. So I've got a rule of the networking groups that I join as well. First of all, I want to see that they're relevant. Are they relevant to what my objective is for joining those groups? It's no use you joining a woodworking men's shed if you're trying to build a business network of people in, health and well-being services. It's no use joining a tourism group if you're someone who's in non-tourism related retail. So look at how relevant it is, and we'll have a look at a formula for that in a second. I would say cost is also a major factor, because you can join so many things, it ends up costing you a lot of money. Yes, over the last 2 years, I've made a lot back because of my association with certain groups and networks. But at times that felt like it was a heavy burden to pay until it started returning. And then of course the time factor. You can't spend the whole time of your business just going to networking functions, shaking hands, kissing babies, and eating canapes. At some point, you've got to get some work done as well. So I'll start off with the whole relevance factor. I asked, is this group relevant to my type of business? Like I said, if you're not related to tourism or hospitality, you probably wouldn't join your local tourism association. Is this particular network a business network, or is it a social group? Now, I've had that come up with a couple of business networks I've been with in the past, which have felt more like they're just power drinking groups that meet together once a month to have a good old sesh. But thankfully, I've been able to find the business networking side of that by hanging around long enough to see that there is a business power drinking sesh value in that network, but there's also networking to be done and business to be made in there as well. But there's some that really are just social groups. Now, social groups can be quite good for connecting with business as well. So don't necessarily discount them. But if you've got limited time and limited money and limited ability to be able to take part in these particular networks, then just make sure that you're selecting the ones that are going to give you the best possible return on your time and money investment. And I'd go, has that group been referred to from someone else that you know? Do you know others that have found success in that particular group? Then look at the cost. Some networking groups do cost a lot to join. BNI chapters are very much an example of that. Better Business Habits here in Darwin or the BX networking can cost quite a lot to join. And then there's weekly costs on top of that. So how much does each event then have to cost? It's one thing to say it costs $1,200 to $1,800 to join a particular network. But then if you're spending $25 to $30 a week on breakfasts and lunches, it becomes quite an expensive prospect unless you're very much sure that you've been referred to this group because it's easy to be able to make money as a part of, and networking is something that's a lot more guaranteed. A lot of these particular business networks do have some guarantees in part that if you get to a point where you go, you know what, I have not made the money or had any kind of growth in my business or received a referral that led to business, then they'll actually refund you the joining membership fee. So what I would do, plan a budget over about 12 months of how much it's going to cost you to be part of that network. Include the cost of the attending and the cost of the joining. So if it's $1,200 to join and $25 for each breakfast each week, narrow that down over a 12-month period of how many breakfasts there are and the joining cost. And then factor in things like how much it's going to cost you in public transport or fuel to get to these particular places. I also factor another thing in there too. If these things happen during general business hours, not after hours, I factor in then how much per hour it's costing me to be there. If my particular per hour cost for consulting is something like $90 an hour, then every hour that I'm there is costing me another $90. So factor that in as well to give you a good perspective of how much it's costing you. Then you'll be able to see, okay, I've got a target now when I go into this network of getting, okay, it's going to cost me $5,000 to be part of this network over a year. I need to make $15,000 back from it to make it truly worthwhile, making my money back and then making 200% on top of that. That makes it very worthwhile. Then you go, yes, it is. That's why I did that earlier screen of why I network. Initially, those numbers didn't come up. But once I got momentum in each of those networks, then the numbers started to roll in. So making sure that you adequately account for this as a proper business expense and an expense of your time means that you're going to pick the networks that suit you absolutely the best. Then it's time. Do people meet weekly with this particular business network? Do they meet monthly? Do they meet quarterly? Factor that in, because then that's going to up the cost of the meetings each time. Is it a 1 hour meeting? This is the whole thing where I was saying about knowing what your hourly rate is. Is it 2 hours or is it half a day every time you have to meet with them? Is it a daytime or a nighttime meeting? That can cut into your personal life. It can cut into your professional life. It can cost you more than just the cost of getting there and being part of the network. And then make a time budget for allowing for meetings, and then not just those follow-ups, those follow-up one-on-one meetings that you need to have to really get some true value out of these networks. Budget that in as well. And if you're really, really clever about it, budget in the time it's going to cost you in terms of dollars to make sure that it's very well known that you've got to get a certain return on investment for being part of this network. Approach a business network like a business network, making sure that it's budgeting for time, budgeting for money, and knowing that you need to get a return on investment. If you're not getting that return on investment within a year or two, leave the network, move on to the next option. It's got to be as harsh as that sometimes. So examples of these business networks would be BNI, which is the world's biggest one. There's chapters all over Australia, except where I am in Darwin. They used to have one, I think, but it's no longer here. We've got Better Business Habits that kind of replace that. Another example is Business Networking Reimagined, which is BX, Business Networking. They're growing very, very fast. I know that they're very present in Queensland at the moment and New South Wales. Facilitate is one that's I know is in Perth in WA. That's also growing quite nicely. And then Business Networking Advantage Australia is another network that you'll find, but there's like tons of them. There's like a couple of dozen of these specific networks that are either one little group in a room or they're connected to a much broader network like BX and BNI tend to be. So take your choice of those. But then also realize that these specific business now these are referral networks. These are all based around the idea that it's got a structure that you go in and you say, okay, this is what I do. I'm looking for referrals for this kind of customer. Then other people in the chapter will say, okay, I understand what that kind of customer is. I know 3 of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get in touch with them and say, hey, I know someone who does this stuff. Are you looking for them at the moment? And then they'll come back to you with a referral for that particular kind of thing. So you know then that they are someone who is going to be able to work with you. A referral is very active. It's not just delivering a lead and saying, hey, these guys I know a couple of months ago when I saw them were maybe looking for someone to do this thing that you maybe sort of do. Here's their phone number. It's not that vague. It's much more specific. It's like, these guys are about to do a renovation. I've told them all about you. I'd love you to meet them. Here you go. Here's their phone number. Arrange to meet them. In fact, you know what? I'll meet them with you just so I can make the introduction. It's a lot more active and it takes time and effort to be part of these chapters. So make sure if you're going to do it, that you're willing to really do it. Other business networks that are not quite as heavy as this would be things like your chambers of commerce in wherever you are in Queensland, Western Australia, Northern Territory, or anywhere else across this wide brown land of ours. Regional tourism offices are also quite valuable. You can be members of those. I'm a member of Tourism Top End and about to become a member personally of Tourism Central Australia as well, because I value the connections I've made and the money I've made out of being connected to tourism. There's also women's business networks, which are powerful ways for women to connect with other women and help them raise the general lot of women in life. I think it's powerful that people of a like-minded gender, a like-minded orientation can join together because it allows them to be in a place that feels safe. That's likewise with LGBTIQA business networks. Being part of those allows you to feel safe and stand on a soft landing so you can develop that confidence to go out into more broad business networks as well. There's small business networks that are formed in a lot of places. In my particular region, it's the Darwin Small Business Network, the Palmerston Regional Business Association that you can join that are separate to the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. And then LinkedIn local events. Not a lot of them have been happening in my neck of the woods, but I know they do happen in a lot of the cities around Australia. Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Cairns and Townsville, I know have had them. Perth has had one. I think I've seen one in Bunbury in WA as well as Geraldton. So if you look out for those on LinkedIn for LinkedIn local events, they're not facilitated by LinkedIn. They're just facilitated by people who are on LinkedIn and are very much part of the ecosystem. So you can find all sorts of different opportunities to network that are very formal, or like these guys are a lot more informal, but just remembering that you're a business owner. So it's up to you to do the work it takes to be able to grow your business out. I certainly didn't get a part of those networks all in one go. It certainly didn't happen overnight, but over a period of time, it definitely has happened. My name is Dante St James. I thank you very much for joining me for this particular presentation. I hope this begins a great journey of networking for you. I'd like you to network with me as well. My address on Facebook is right there. Just put facebook.com/ in front of that and you'll find my Facebook page. Please do follow it. I've also got my LinkedIn presence there as linkedin.com/in/Dante St James. You won't remember that. Just type it into LinkedIn. You're going to find me. There's not that many of us on the planet. I believe I'm the only one that's actually on LinkedIn. Please connect, and I'd love to be able to introduce you in some way to my network as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe by the button below and like this particular video, just so we can get the word out there that there's all these free, amazing things coming out of Treaty Business Consulting and Business Station through the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, also through Regional Development Australia in Brisbane, Queensland as well. Sorry, Queenslanders, I've got about you there. Please do connect, and I'll see you in another presentation very shortly. I'm Dante St James. I hope you've got some great value out of this and you can take this as a learning into your business.